Hey, Beastista here, and we are going to be going over the CDL Season 4, the first 4 matches of the regular season. So the CDL Season 4 has 8 matches total, so this is the first half, and I'm going to kind of go over my team and show you all the videos of my first 4 matches. If you're interested in just specific matches, there's timestamps in the description below. Specifically, maybe match 4, which I have yet to show any video of or put up onto the website. So with that, let's get into my team. So I decided to go with Mono Dragon in the CDL. So for reference, I won CDL Season 3 going Mono Psychic, and I decided to go Mono Dragon because I think that our format, which is double restricted with Dynamax, is a very good format for Dragon specifically. So first and foremost, I don't think Dragon is particularly viable as a mono type team unless you are restricted, because Dialga is incredibly important to the team. Dialga having a Steel Dragon type gives it resistances to Ice, Dragon, and Fairy, all of Dragon's main weaknesses. In addition, it gets super effective stab damage into all 3 of those types as well, which makes it incredibly versatile at dealing with the threats to the Dragon team. In addition to that, it also gets Trick Room, in which there's only one non-restricted Dragon that learns Trick Room, which is a really big deal. And so that definitely helps with speed control at either doing Trick Room if I can't get Tailwind up, or being able to counter Trick Room on my opponent's team. Other than that, my team, I think, is overall pretty strong. I got Reshiram as my second restricted because it has the Fairy neutral, takes damage neutral for fairies and neutral from ice, and also does super effective damage into ice Pokemon. I can go into my team a little bit more depth, but I'm not going to. If you really want to see a team review and my draft analysis and why I drafted everything, I'll leave a comment and I might do a video of that. If not, hopefully you enjoy. So let's get into my first week's match. So this is my first week's match. I'm playing against the Cleveland Jupiters. So first thing you should all notice is looking at my opponent's team. They are going Mono Psychic. They're actually copied my strategy from last season, in which I won the CDL with, going Mono Psychic. So the big thing that I find on the Mono Psychic team that I think is very easy to exploit is that they have 0 Ghost immunities, and they only have 1 Pokemon that takes neutral damage to Ghost, which is specifically Malamar. So all I need is Ghost coverage on my team, and I have pretty much perfect coverage on everything. This gives me the ability to run a lot more safe moves or support moves like Protect, Trick Room, things like that, which is very big. So one of the noteworthy things is they do have Calyrex Shadow, which is pretty scary, especially since it outspeeds my entire team and does very good damage into a large portion of my team. However, other than that, nothing on the team super scares me. Their team is very specially oriented, so I can lean a little bit on the special side. And in addition, like I said, I only need pretty much Ghost coverage. So let's get into what I ended up bringing. So this is what I ended up bringing. I bring Shadow Tag Reshiram with mainly Shadow Ball, Light Screen, and then the Heat Waves mainly just to kind of kill Pokemon that has Focus Sash or something like that. And I leaned very heavily in the special defense. I get Assault Vest, max special defense, max HP Drampa with Snarl. The main idea is just to click Snarl over and over again, lower the special attack, because my opponent's team is mainly special attackers. Next, we have Haxorus. I gave Unnerve to mainly deal with some resist berries. And other than that, max speed, max attack with Shadow Claw. And then first impression to do a little bit of damage and, maybe hit the Malamar, for example. Next, we have Appleton, which is there as a special defensive wall. The idea is just Amnesia, recover, and slowly become unkillable on the special side. Next, we have Dragapult with Choice Scarf. The idea is to outspeed and one-shot the Calyrex Shadow. So in addition to that, I gave it max HP, max special defense pretty much. And the idea is that if Calyrex Shadow has something like a Focus Sash, or a Choice Scarf, or a Ghost Resist Berry, Dragapult will not be able to one-shot it, or will not be able to outspeed, depending on the item. However, with that stat distribution, I should survive any unboosted Astral Barrage from Calyrex Shadow, and then I should be able to either kill it if it's a Choice Scarf, or be able to two-shot it, which will be pretty relevant if, after I survive an Astral Barrage. And finally, we have Physical Expert Belt Dialga with Shadow Claw, Ironhead, Trick Room, and Protect. The main idea is just, that's going to be my main Dynamax threat of the match. and it does very good damage and pretty much one-shots almost anything on their team. And so with that, let's get into the match. So here we are for game one. So looking at my opponent's team, we can see that they brought pretty much, things that are unsurprising. They brought both the restricteds, they brought Hatterene because it's, a fairy Pokemon that also can set Trick Room, and they brought Latias, which, does good damage to my team. And so looking at this, I decided to kind of just go with my fairly standard lead, which is Drampa and Dragapult. Dragapult is a good way to kind of one-shot the Calyrex Shadow, and then Drampa can just snarl. And so, see, we lead those, and they lead Hatterene and Calyrex Shadow. So here, I think it's pretty safe to just snarl and Shadow Ball. We see that they end up being Choice Scarf, which is not the biggest deal, but is somewhat annoying because it does mean I take a pretty big chunk of damage, and then the Dazzling Gleam ends up killing my Dragapult. So not the worst, but not the best. So here, I decide to just protect to bait some attacks and snarl to get special attack drops on both of them. This definitely makes Dialga very bulky because both of these Pokemon are special attackers. So here we just snarl again, and the Mystic Fire isn't doing anything because I'm physical, and I just can undo the Trick Room because I have Trick Room myself. The Earth Power does a lot more than I was hoping, even though it's at -2. However, now that it's out of Trick Room, Shadow Claw is a clean KO there, and I can snarl again, and Hatterene is now doing very small amount of damage. So here they have Glade, and I have a pretty safe just maxed still into Hatterene, increasing my defenses so I can survive pretty much anything from Glade. With that, we reveal that they're Babri Berry, which is noteworthy but not that big of a deal because I'm physical and I should be able to actually kill it even with a Babri Berry. So here we just Icy Wind to make sure I outspeed with any Pokemon in the back, and I Max Guard. This is definitely a mistake here because they get a pretty clean Max Knuckle into Drampa and get a free attack and kill. However, now that I'm definitely outspeed, I can just Max Phantasm and Shadow Ball and get the kill. So it definitely went pretty well. And my guess is that they're going to switch up by not leaning Calyrex Shadow. And so I think the best way to kind of deal with a lead that's not Calyrex Shadow is to lead like Haxorus, because I think Haxorus is pretty good into the rest of their team, especially because, most of their team is especially defensive. So here we go, we lead Dragapult and Haxorus, and they lead Calyrex Shadow and Latias. Definitely was not expecting this, and I definitely think I make a misplay here. I definitely think I should protect Haxorus and just kill the Calyrex when I have the chance. However, I decided to go for a first impression, which activates a weakness policy, and then I take the Astral Barrage. So even if I didn't activate the weakness policy, this turn would not have gone great because I knew Calyrex Shadow was going to outspeed Dragapult, and that Haxorus was going to lose its Focus Sash and probably die. And so now, definitely not the greatest situation. So now I have to bring in Dialga, and I just have to Dynamax here. And I decided to Dynamax and go for an attack into the Glade. However, I take huge amounts of damage on the Dragon Pulse, and in addition, do not kill because of the attack drop onto the Glade, and I bring in Reshiram. So here, my only hope is that they target into my Reshiram, so I protect and attack, and they do, in fact, attack into my Reshiram, and I can get an attack off. However, now I'm at -2 attack, and I'm at very, very bad shape. And so even though I have Dynamax, the Draco Meteor ends up killing pretty cleanly, and I can Max Phantasm and do a huge damage into the Palkia, but end up not being great. And so now I'm definitely not feeling great, and there's pretty much no way, and I end up losing here after this turn. But we do reveal that they are that they do have room service. So now I definitely think I need to make some adjustments. I think the biggest idea is that I think that Drampa and Dialga seems like a pretty good lead if they are, if they really want to lead with the Calyrex Shadow, because I think both of them fare very well into the Calyrex Shadow. And so with the assumption that they're going to lead Calyrex Shadow, I think I should do that. So here I lead the Dialga Drampa, and they lead Hatterene Calyrex Shadow. I honestly think I make a misplay here. I go for the Snarl and Max Phantasm into the Calyrex Shadow. I think since Calyrex Shadow doesn't do much into me, and the Astral Barrage is Choice Scarfed, I think I should have actually killed the Hatterene, because at -1, the Calyrex is not that big of a deal. But now I get a free kill, but now they got a Pokemon in. However, I can snarl into them, and me understanding Necrozma and Trick Room is a really big deal with Drampa. And so I decided to just snarl, take the Max Quake, which I take okay but not great, and Max Phantasm, which kills the Hatterene. And so now they do have Gallade, though, which is not looking great into my team. However, I just Shadow Ball into the Necrozma, and the close combat kills the Dialga, which is pretty sad. I could have Snarled, but I didn't really want to Snarl in front of the justified, likely Pokemon with Justified and Gallade. So here now, the only really option is double up and hope to kill the Gallade. The close combat onto them ends up killing the Drampa. And the Max Quake does just about 50%, and the Shadow Ball does end up killing the Glade. So now I'm actually in a position where I completely win this game. I shoot Shadow Balls from Mushroom is guaranteed to kill, and a Phantom Force is guaranteed to kill from Necrozma. So I just click both of those. Phantom Force goes up, and the Phantom Force ends up getting the kill. So it definitely was a very close match, and very, very close than I thought. I definitely was feeling very confident going into this, and I just barely squeaked die. I definitely think the 2 misplays I made definitely hurt. So here we are for week 2. So I'm currently 1-0, and they are 1-0 as well, with I'm +1 and they're at +2. So looking at my opponent's team, there are kind of one thing that is very noteworthy to me, which is they have exactly 1 dragon resist on their team, and they have multiple dragon weaknesses, namely in both of their restricted Pokemon. This makes me feel pretty good in the matchup because I can pretty comfortably, just use dragon coverage as almost the only coverage on my team, which gives me more diversity in the move selection I have in that aspect. So, however, there are some very concerning things with this, namely Tornadus, which has guaranteed Tailwind, so they have no way to fake it out or, taunt it at priority speed, and both the restricteds do huge sums of damage into all the Pokemon on my team. And as obvious, I don't have any dragon immunities or dragon resist. I only have dragon neutral Pokemon, so dragon coverage is just very safe into my entire team. Other than that, like I said, there's a couple of Pokemon here or there, but those are kind of the big ones. And so with that, I decided to go with this. So here's the team I decided to bring. I decided to go with Frisk, Focus Sash, Noivern with Tailwind, get a little bit of speed control. I got Dracometer and Hurricane just to do some pretty good damage. I decided to go with Choice Specs Dialga with Roar Time. Choice Specs Roar Time is a one-shot on both of the restricted Pokemon. In addition, it does huge sums of damage into pretty much anything, and it's a very good way to kind of punish a Dynamax in front of my Dialga. Next, we did Choice Band Haxorus. So Haxorus outspeeds both the restricted, so I made sure it outspeeds it, and Choice Band Outrage is pretty safe. So I feel pretty comfortable going with Outrage as a good offensive move, rather because they do not have many Dragon Resist. So it's even though it's normally a very risky option, it's not that risky this week. Next, we have Habanberry Reshiram to take a little bit better from a Dragon coverage. So if I Dynamax with it, I pretty much can survive any attack. And then I have double Dragon coverage and Dracometer, Dragapulse, and then Fusion Flare. Like I said, Dragon coverage hits everything other than Escavalier, and then Fusion Flare can hit Escavalier. And Fusion Flare is a little bit better if I'm not Dynamaxed than Dragon Pulse when they're hitting neutral, because it's 100 base power and it's 100% accurate. Next, we have Choice Scarf. The idea behind Choice Scarf is that Choice Scarf Dragapult outspeeds both of the restricteds in Tailwind. And so I can outspeed their restricteds in Tailwind and go for like an Outrage or a Break and Shred or Dragon Darts and do huge sums of damage to them. And that's about it. And then finally, we have Goodra. Goodra is there just to be a pretty bulky threat, take a hit and get the weakness policy activated, and then hopefully kill in the attack back. And so that's kind of the idea, and let's get into the matches. So here we are. We see that they didn't bring Zekrom, which was a really big deal, and they also didn't bring Tornadus, which is a huge deal. I definitely feel very confident about this matchup now, because those were 2 of my most concerning Pokemon on their team. So with this, I decided to just kind of go with the pretty standard lead of Noivern and Dialga. Noivern now, because I can set up Tailwind, is very likely to get up Tailwind, and I can probably kill anything on their team. So here we see that they link Excelgor and the Palossand with weakness policy. With the revealing weakness policy, I honestly probably should have doubled up into the Palisand slot. Instead, I hurricaned into the Excelgor and roar timed into the Palisand. I think I could have gotten the kill before it even got a move off. However, I get Excelgor down to Focus Sash, and the roar time gets it down to 7 HP, and then Max Quake ends up killing. The double up would have killed, which definitely is a little bit sad. I definitely think it was a misplay. So here I just decide to breaking swipes with the Dragapult to break the Focus Sash and possibly kill the Palisand, especially with the Hurricane killing here. So here we decide to just breaking swipes again and go for a Draco Meteor just in case. And they end up getting the double protect, which is definitely really sad. With the double check and the Trick Room, they're able to kill the Dragapult. And their Meteor Beam is able to bring Noivern down to its Focus Sash. However, I'm able to kill the Palisand, which is definitely pretty useful. So now they have their Kyurem and I have the Reshiram. However, I still have my Dynamax, which definitely puts me in a pretty favorable position. And so with the Dynamax, I'm able to Max Dragon to the Kyurem and protect the Noivern, so in case they attack it, which they do. With the Max Dragon, we see that we do about 30-40%, and now we should definitely easily kill it in that. And we see that they end up actually underspeeding and Trick Rooming. I feel like that might have been a misclick, that they wanted to Trick Room and protect with the Kyurem and go for the double protect. I think that's the only way they get out of that with that Trick Room play. But with that, we're able to get the pretty clean kill and feeling pretty good. Yeah, and so now going into this match, I think the idea is I'm thinking there's not really much reason for me to change anything up. I don't think there's a great way for them to kind of counter my lead. And so I decided to kind of just stick with the same idea and switch for Goodra in the back instead of Reshiram. And so we lead the same lead and we reveal Life Orb. And here I definitely should have said, okay, this is not great for my Dialga because they can fake out. And so I just protect the Noivern and they fake out. And with this, the Max Quake kills the Dialga. It's definitely probably a misplay on my side. I think I probably could have switched it out into maybe something like Goodra. But now we switch into Goodra and they Max Guard and I sub Tailwind, which honestly Tailwind is probably a mistake. But because I wanted Goodra to actually have its weakness policy activated, but it didn't really matter. And so here we just Hurricane and we miss into the Scrafty, which is definitely sad. But the Max Whirlwind does a little bit of damage and lowers the attack of the Scrafty. Definitely not looking the most exciting for me, but we do have Tailwind up. And so here we just decide to get some damage and kill the Behemoth and Max Dragon once again to lower the attack of Scrafty some more. But now there's one turn left of Tailwind and we just go for the double up into the Entei and we miss out on the KO. The Stone Edge does huge chunks of damage into Reshiram and we get hit by an Ice Punch, which activates our weakness policy, which is pretty good. Now we have pretty good damage output. So we protect here because we definitely think that they're just going to Stone Edge again. The Dragon Pulse ends up killing that, and they end up doubling into the Reshiram, which is huge. So now I definitely think I probably misplay. I think that I should probably have Draco Meteored into the Kyurem, hoping for a crit. I think that's my only out, but I decided to go to Fusion Flare and hope that Goodra survives, which it did not. And we end up losing here. Definitely sad. I think that big one ended up kind of coming down to me having a bad lead and not switching. So going into this next one, I think the big change I want to do is to lead Dragapult because Dragapult can't be faked out. And, and also it also threatens the Palisand pretty well. So they lead the same lead they did game one, and I lead the Dragapult and Dialga. And so here I decide to just switch out Noivern in case they max Quake, and they end up protecting. I just go for an Outrage, which goes into the Kyurem spot, and I take a very hard Ice Punch into Dragapult. So here they switch into Entei, and I go for the Hurricane, or the Tailwind, and then the Outrage. The Scream Seed breaking my Sash, and the Outrage ends up hitting Entei again and killing it, and the Hurricane does 90% of damage, which is really big, and the Ice Punch kills the Dragapult. So now we bring in Dialga, and Dialga here, I'm just going to kill the Behemoth, make sure they don't get up Trick Room, and I just Roar Time and kill it. And the Protect on Scrafty prevents it from dying from Hurricane. And so now I have a pretty safe win. I can max Airstream into Scrafty. If they should kill Scrafty and give the speed boost to Dialga. If they attack the Noivern, then Dialga should kill Kyurem next turn. And if they don't, Then I have a Noivern at +1 speed and a Haxorus in the back, with Haxorus being able to outrage. And so here they max guard, and I just max dragon and outrage, and we max dragon and outrage again, getting the clean kill. It's definitely a very close match, and we just barely got there. But so happy, and it's a pretty good win for me. So here we are for week 3. So so far we're doing really well. We're at 2-0. But this week definitely is a tough one because we were playing against Lidden on a Prayer, who is actually the opponent I played in the finals of the CDL Season 3. And they are quite a good competitor. In addition to that, they also have Whimsicott, which is guaranteed Tailwind against me, and a fairy Pokemon. They have Palkia, which is outspeeds both my restricted and is a dragon Pokemon, which does huge sums of damage to my team. In addition, they also have Sylveon, which is another fairy Pokemon with pretty good damage. They have Gastrodon, which though doesn't seem like a good against the dragon team, is very good against both my Dialga and Reshiram, which are two of my big important Pokemon. And in addition, Celesteela is just another very powerful Pokemon. So definitely some good starting things. But with that, we can get into the team I brought. So I ended up going with this. So first we see Noivern, very similar to the previous week, where I just have Tailwind, Hurricane, Flamethrower, Protect, and pretty much max speed and a little bit of max special attack. Next we have Weakness Policy Gudra. So Gudra really wasn't planning on coming too much unless I am concerned about their Gastrodon. Its main goal is to be there, Power Whip, max overgrowth into Gastrodon and kill it, because Gastrodon can be pretty hard for the rest of my team to deal with. Next we have Life Orb, Physical Dialga. Second of 3 weeks that I brought Physical Dialga with Ironhead, Shadowclaw, and Outrage. Their team is very physically or specially oriented, so the physical coverage seems very important. In addition, Shadowclaw seems pretty helpful into their Lunala, which I didn't really mention too much in the team review, but definitely worth noting now. Next, we have Drampa with an Assault Vest and Snarl. The main idea is, multiple of their major threats are special, namely like Celesteela, Lunala, Palkia, and so just clicking Snarl over and over again seems like a very good way to stall out some Dynamax turns. Reshiram with Habanberry, with Blue Flare, Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, and Protect. The idea is that, Habanberry lets me survive pretty much any attack from one of their restricteds, and Fusion Flare or Blue Flare to deal with Celesteela, Shadow Ball, and Draco Meteor to deal with Lunala and their restricted respectively. And then finally we have Dragapult with Choice Scarf again. The idea is to outspeed the restricted Pokemon when they have Tailwind up, and so I can outspeed something like Lunala, Celesteela in Tailwind, and either drag Phantom Force away from their attack, or do Dragon Darts into like Palkia, doing huge sums of damage into it. The main game plan of this week is basically to stall out their Dynamax and then hopefully sweep with Dialga Dynamax in the back. So let's get into the match. So looking at my opponent's team, they pretty much brought what I expected, and so with that, I decided to just kind of lead Noivern and Drampa, like I said in the pre-match stuff. The main idea is to stall out their Dynamax and be able to sweep with Dialga in the back. And so Drampa is just the best way to kind of stall out their Dynamax, since, if you look at it, it looks like pretty much they have no physical attackers on their entire team. And then Noivern having Focus Sash seems pretty relevant. And so they lead Lunala and Celesteela, and our Noivern is going to reveal that their Celesteela is Weakness Policy and their Lunala is Light Clay. So with that, we have a pretty clean just Snarl and Tailwind. Tailwind is probably wrong because my Drampa is pretty slow and it ends up not outspeeding either of them. However, we do get a Snarl lowering both their special attacks. However, Celesteela using Max Quake reveals its physical, which is definitely a little bit annoying. However, I just continue to Snarl because the main goal is just to make the Lunala completely useless. And as we see, they're already 2 turns of Dynamax over and they have yet to kill a single Pokemon. And so with this, they just end up finally killing the Drampa, and I'm successfully able to stall all 3 turns of their Dynamax, and all they get is 1 kill, which is a really big deal, especially because my Dialga is physical, and those special defense boosts are very close to useless. So here I go for the Hurricane, and I max Phantasm into the Celesteela, which lowers its defense, and with that defense drop, I think it should be killed by another one. And with the double up, they're able to kill the Noivern, which honestly is pretty good because it gives me a free switch into Reshiram. So now Reshiram can just go for a clean Shadow Ball into the Lunala Swatch, which they switch out from to Silvally, but with the Max Phantasm and the defense drop in the Celesteela, it's a pretty clean KO. Now I'm in very commanding position, in my opinion, because I'm faster than both their Pokemon. Well, not both, but one of their Pokemon, and the Shadow Ball is a clean KO, and the Max Steel Spike is a clean KO, and now I have two Pokemon into their one Pokemon. And their final Pokemon is Palkia, which is unsurprising. However, I should survive an attack from either of them. We see Spatial Link crits, and with the crit, I'm even able to survive. And the Outrage also reveals that they are Hawbon Berry. However, I'm able to get the kill with the Draco Meteor and get the first game win. Definitely went a lot better than I was expecting, but the game plan worked well, which is stall out their Dynamax and then sweep with Dialga in the back. So with them having physical Celesteela, I decided that Trampa might not be as good, and I decided to really Dragapult instead, especially since I think that there's a good chance they might lead Whimsicott this time because how well the match went for me. So with that, they end up leading the exact same lead, and I lead Noivern Dragapult. So with this, there's not really a great option. It's just Phantom Force into Lunala and attack Lunala. This Hurricane probably should have been a Flamethrower just to break the Shadow Shield. However, the Phantom Force makes them miss their max attack, which is huge. I decided to switch in Dialga because there's not much Noivern can do here, and I don't think there's an attack that's going to do too much damage. Max Steel Spike does do a pretty good amount of damage, but not that big of a deal. And so since we're choiced into Dragapult, we just a Phantom Force once again, and they Max Steel Spike into that spot again, which is huge. The Choice Scarf is a big deal, and we're able to bring Whimsicott down to its Focus Sash and get a defense boost, which is good into the Celesteela. So here we just Max Phantasm into Celesteela, and the Phantom Force should kill the Whimsicott, which it does. And they attack into the Dragapult, which is pretty good. Good damage, but I'm in pretty good shape, and they lose their defense boost. So here, definitely a little bit questionable if I should protect or not, but I don't. And that double up just barely doesn't kill me, and I'm able to kill through the Hawbon Berry since they didn't get the Reflect Up, and I die from Life Orb. And so here I'm just going to protect because I don't want to accidentally activate Weakness Policy and somehow get them back into this game. And so the Phantom Force does good damage, and now we have a pretty clean Phantom Force Flamethrower for the kill, and we get the kill. That was I was very stressed of this match, and this went incredibly well. The misses were huge with the Phantom Force having two of those stalled was great. So let's get into the next match. So here we are for our week 4 matchup. So far we're 3-0, which is very good with +4, and we are playing against HK Blade, who ended up making the playoffs last season. They're currently 1-1 +0. They missed one of their matches, which is not that big of a deal, and they should hopefully make it up pretty soon. So looking at this team, however, this is a terrifying team. The first and major thing you can see is Zacian. Zacian is crazy powerful into my team. Behemoth Blade and Play Rough hits everything on my team for huge damage, except for Dialga, and Dialga can't really take a close combat or Sacred Sword that well. In addition, they have Thunderous Incarnate for Thunder Wave and Scary Face support, or as a good Dynamax threat, they have Comfy, which pairs very well with Zygarde because Zygarde at +2 from a weakness policy is pretty powerful. Ally Switch is really big. In addition, Zygarde does huge damage to my team because everything on my team takes super effective damage from the combination of ground and dragon. And so that's definitely the concern with that. Other than that, Amoonguss is fairly concerning because if you lead something like Zygarde, Amoonguss with Rage Power, that can be or Zacian or Zygarde with Amoonguss with Rage Power can be really hard, and then Incineroar can lower some of my physical attacks if I decide to be a little bit more physically oriented. So anyways, with that, let's get into the team I brought. So here's my team. So looking at my team, the first thing I'd note is kind of the first two Pokemon together. So we have Choice Scarves Flygon next to Dialga. The idea between these two is that I am with telepathy on Dialga, I can bulldoze with Flygon and not affect Dialga and slower both of my opponent's Pokemon on my opponent's team. The combination of Choice Specs Roar Time, and Bulldoze is guaranteed to kill Zygarde. In addition, Bulldoze and Choice Specs Earth Power is guaranteed to kill Zacian. So that's the main idea with those two Pokemon, and that combination should hopefully be able to deal with most of their leads. In addition to that, I have Rock Slide to deal with possibly Thundurus with the Flygon, and I have Flash Cannon to deal with possibly like Comfy and other things with Dialga. Below those two, we have Noivern with a pretty standard set of Draco Meteor, Tailwind, Flamethrower, and Protect, and pretty good speed. And Frisk, the idea is just be pretty good at doing some good damage, but mainly there for identifying their items and setting up Tailwind, and also being a ground immune Pokemon because their Zygarde is likely going to have ground coverage, and Noivern being immune to that definitely helps, especially since I brought both of my ground weak Pokemon in Reshiram and Dialga. Next, we have Reshiram with Life Orb. Very high defense stat this week to deal with the Zacian and deal with the Zygarde damage. I just have double Dragon and Fire coverage. The idea is that I should be able to win max pretty close, if not guarantee one-shot Zacian. When I'm maxed and Zygarde is not maxed, pretty much guarantee one-shot Zygarde with a Dynamax Draco, Max Dragon. And and so that's kind of the idea with that. Next, we see my Dragon Ball. For some reason, it doesn't island. I ended up bringing Lumberry to deal with Thunder Waves on the Thundurus and Spores on the Amoonguss, and then Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, Will-O-Wisp, Protect, and then enough speed to guarantee outspeed their fast Pokemon other than Zacian. And then finally, we have Roselia Berry Appleton with Ripen. The idea is that the combination of Ripen and Roselia Berry makes me take 1/4 damage of Play Rough from a Zacian, and I have max defense, max HP with Iron Defense. And so if I'm out in front of a Zacian, I can actually Iron Defense, and with the first, and be able to take 2 attacks from Zacian with one if I'm Iron Defense in front of it. And then I recover and body press. That does very good damage to pretty much their entire team. And then amnesia for any special attackers. And so anyways, so that's the team. And let's get into the match. Here are we for game 1. Looking at my opponent's team, the only thing that surprises me is Dunsparce, which I'm not particularly concerned with. So I decided to just go with the Dialga and Flygon lead, which is pretty standard lead in my thought, because it seems pretty good into most of the things. And then I'm thinking just Appleton and Reshiram in the back, but I decided instead of Appleton to run Noivern in the back, because Noivern has the ground immunity instead of the ground resist. And in addition, Focus Sash and the Tailwind seems like it could be useful. And so that's what I end up bringing. And we get into our first game. They bring Dunsparce and Thundurus, which is definitely surprising. I was not expecting to see Dunsparce game 1, especially as a lead. There's not much for me to do. I decide between Roar Time and Draco Meteor into the Thundurus spot, and I decide to just Draco Meteor into the Thundurus spot and Rock Slide to flinch for possible flinches, and the combination of Rock Slide and Draco Meteor should kill a Dynamax Thundurus. They, however, reveal that their support Prankster Thundurus, and the Rock Slide does very good damage to the Thundurus, and they get a coil off on the Dunsparce, which I'm concerned with, but I'm not sure what it's trying to do. And we get a full paralysis, which is definitely a little bit annoying. Now that they have the Dunsparce coiled, I decide I'm just going to Roar Time it because I want it dead. And I decided to Rock Slide because I'm Choice Scarfed in. The Rock Slide gives pretty good damage, and they flinch, which is a big deal, but then we missed the Roar Time, so I guess it ends up evening out. And so here we Rock Slide once more and go for the Roar Time again. Sadly, the Roar Time into the Zygarde would have probably been game over there, but I Roar Timed into the Dunsparce, killing it, which is definitely pretty useful, but I'm not sure what it was actually doing, so maybe it's not that big a deal. They bring out Thundurus, and so here I just want to kill the Thundurus, deal with that, make sure it doesn't have all the support moves for my Pokemon in the back. They Dynamax the Zygarde, and they end up protecting the Thundurus, and the Rock Slide does very minimal damage into the Zygarde, and the Max Quake goes into the Dialga, doing huge sums of damage, but my Dialga does survive. So not feeling super great, but I also don't really want to switch out. So here, I do switch out reading of Max Quake and into the Noivern, and I leave my Flygon with the hopes to kill the Thunderous. They end up attacking into my Flygon and lowering its speed, which is definitely pretty sad because if I just roar timed, I would have been huge commanding position. But it's okay because now I can bring in Reshiram and we have Noivern here. I've definitely considered doing something like Tailwind here, but I decided to just go for the hopes to kill Thunderous and Max Guard to bait a Max Quake and or a Thunder Wave or something like that. And so, I definitely considered attacking instead, but I just go for the Max Guard. I think this was probably a misplay because I didn't really check the damage calcs. But what we see here is the Flamethrower actually is not going to get the KO, and Draco Meteor definitely would. So I probably should have just Draco Meteor and got the kill. However, we do protect their Max Quake, which is a big deal. So now, however, we know that the Thunderous doesn't have any attacking moves. And so we decided to just double up onto their threat because we know that their Thunderous, has Protect, Thunder Wave, Taunt, and Scary Face as their only moves. So here the Thunderous protects, which is pretty good. Good thing we didn't waste an attack into it. And the Draco Meteor goes into the Zygarde, which has a Haban Berry, which we revealed with Frisk earlier. And the Max, they have 1,000 arrows as well instead of, which doesn't hit the flying move. The other one does. And the double up ends up killing. So now we're in very good shape. We still have a turn of Dynamax and one of the Pokemons can't do damage to me. And so now we reveal Zygarde, which is unsurprising. And so here I just set up a Tailwind and go for the Max Flare into the Zygarde, expecting to protect. Maybe I should have just killed the Thunderous. But here they end up Thunder Waving and getting me paralyzed. But I set up Tailwind and we get the Max Flare and we're able to get Zacian really low. And so here I decide to switch out the Noivern because I have a pretty much guaranteed win if I'm able to get a Flamethrower into Zygarde in the sun. And right now Noivern's at -2 special attack, and so I just need to be a neutral and I'm able to get the win here pretty much. So we switch out Dialga to kind of sacrifice it. And they end up Thunder Waving into that spot and play Roughing into the Reshiram. I'm not sure if Reshiram survives or not, depends on their set, but the Fusion Flare definitely kills. And with that, we're guaranteed win because their Thunderous does not have any damaging moves. And so I'm just figuring out the most accurate moves to make sure the game is quick. And we do the double up and, they just do a non-damaging move and they kill. Don't know what the Dunsparce was there for, but Thunderous not having any offensive moves was definitely a really big deal. Here we are for game 2. So I definitely was concerned with all the paralysis from Thunderous. So I definitely want to lead Dragapult and Flygon this game to deal with the possibilities of them having all those Thunder Wave paralyses. And with that, I also like Appleton in the back as a switch in. And so the main question is whether Reshiram or Dialga. Aside, I prefer Dialga over Reshiram because I don't really want to. I like its ability not to be a Dynamax threat, and also it's a lot better into play roughs than Reshiram is. And so, anyways, let's get into the match. So with that, they did the same exactly, which is surprising. And so here we don't have, I could try to Dynamax and just kill Thunderous in turn 1, but I decided to just Dragon Darts and Rock Slide. I have a pretty clean way to, guarantee kill Thunderous next turn with the Rock Slide after this double up. And so they taunt my Dragapult, which is not that big of a deal because I just went for Dragon Darts. And we do go for the Dragon Darts, and we can see that it looks like Thunderous is probably in range of a Rock Slide. And then the Dragon Darts will probably kill the Dunsparce. And so here, I just decided to go for the Dragon Darts and Rock Slide. There's not much I can do about the Flygon. And hope that they just go for a Thunder Wave and waste their turn because I have the Lumberry. And they do go for the Thunder Wave. It does waste their turn because I have the Lumberry. And we are able to get the Rock Slide off, killing the Thunderous. And now the Dragon Darts should kill the Dunsparce, even though it's at +1. And we do get the double hit and it kills. And so now we have a 4v2 lead, which is huge. I'm definitely feeling pretty good about where we are. And with that, they reveal Incineroar and Zacian. So I definitely have a strong desire to switch out Flygon because Flygon looks great into this. And even though it's at -1. I also decided I probably want to switch out Dragapult. And so I decided to just do the double switch because I think this is going to be pretty favorable no matter what attacks they go into. And so here what we see, though, is that they end up going for the Play Rough, or the Fake Out, which is really nice because it kind of wastes a turn, and the Play Rough into the Appleton. And with the Ripen, it does very little damage. And now my opponent's really concerned with longevity of Appleton. So here I just Iron Defense and go for an Earth Power into the Zacian with hopes to kind of do good damage to the Zacian. The Play Rough ends up killing the Appleton, which is not surprising. And then the Earth Power goes and gets the one-shot on Zacian, which is huge. Was not expecting that. Pretty much that means that Zacian is, pretty much at 0 bulk. And so here, pretty much either Pokemon I bring in will be helpful, but I decided to just bring Flygon because that seems like the easiest Pokemon to bring in. And so here we can just Earthquake on the Flygon and Earth Power onto the Incineroar, and I'm pretty confident that we win this game now. So they Dynamax the Incineroar, and they reveal to be Shuka Berry on this with the Earthquake. Earthquake still does very good damage, and then the Earth Power does huge damage, bringing it down below 50%. And they end up getting the Max Knuckle off and killing the Dialga, which is not that big of a deal. Other than that, or now we have Dragapult, and so I'm deciding of what I should do, but I think the idea is I don't want to risk some random thing where they Max Guard and Earthquake somehow kills, and then they somehow have a move to kill the Flygon or something like that. So I decided to Dynamax the Flygon just to be safe and get a clean Max Quake as the kill, because I don't want to accidentally somehow do damage into my Dragapult, like I said. And with that, the double up gets the kill, and I'm able to win very convincingly. This was definitely surprising. I felt terrible about this matchup, but somehow get a very clean 2-0 win. I got a little bit lucky in game 1, but definitely pretty happy. And now I'm 4-0 going into the second half of the season. So as you can see, I'm very happy with myself so far. I'm 4-0 with this Dragon team. I was not expecting to do that well. I was definitely feeling like this was going to be worse than my Psychic team, but it so far has been started off notably better. I definitely had some lucky matches. I definitely had some hard reads that end up going well, but I'm very happy with the 4-0 start. And hopefully I can get there and make it to playoffs, and maybe even get a second champion for the CDL. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.